Thanks very much, Michael. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, mesdames et messieurs. I'd like to thank you for attending the briefing today. The technical briefing is going to include remarks by John Manconi and then presentations from Pat Scrimger, who's the Assistant General Manager for Customer Systems and Planning. I've said it before and say it again and again and again. Our city is going through an unprecedented and exciting transformation. There are no municipalities that have converted an existing transitway to light rail, all while continuing to deliver regular transit services. Je l'ai déjà dit et je le répète, notre ville est en pleine transformation et il s'agit d'une transformation sans précédent. Aucune municipalité n'a encore converti en train léger un système existant de transport rapide par autobus, tout en continuant à offrir des services réguliers de transport en commun. Once the Confederation Line opens in 2018, our city will not only have a world-class light rail transit system, it will have one of the busiest systems in North America. But in order to get there, we must first go through a period of change and adjustment. The three presentations you'll hear today will cover important elements of our city's 2018 public transit network. Les trois présentations auxquelles vous allez assister aujourd'hui feront état de nouveaux éléments importants dans notre réseau de transport en commun municipal de 2018. The first presentation will cover bus service identification and the new wayfinding system. Changes to the bus network for 2018 will result in different service structure that is not reflected by OC Transpo's current wayfinding systems. Service type names, route numbers, and the colors and symbols used on maps and signs will be modified to simplify customer understanding and navigation of the new network. The new wayfinding system will form the basis for clear communication and understanding in the lead up to the opening of the Confederation Line. The second presentation will outline OC Transpo's 2018 route network and its transformation to coordinate with the O-Train Confederation Line multimodal operations. The O-Train Confederation Line will replace bus routes along the transitway between Blair Road and Tunney's Pasture stations. Many customers will connect to the Confederation Line at Blair Station in the east, Tunney's Pasture in the west, and Saint Laurent and Herdman stations in the central part of the transit system. The transition to the 2018 bus route network will affect the everyday trips of most transit customers, as they may have to make new connections between bus and train, or bus and bus, use fare gates, or use a bus route with a different route number. Lastly, the third presentation will cover the proposed restructured OC Transpo fare system. Transit service will soon be adjusted to adapt to an even larger multimodal network, leading to the opening of the O-Train Confederation Line in 2018. And as part of this transition, the Transit Commission approved a rapid transit fare control strategy, providing that all rail stations would have fare control equipment requiring machine-readable fares. These changes have led to a need to review all transit fares, which you'll hear about later today. With the agenda now before us, I'd like to point out that the information and recommendations you'll hear today have been prepared following an incredible amount of research and planning. Avec le programme qui nous attend, j'aimerais souligner que l'information et les recommandations dont vous prendrez connaissance aujourd'hui sont le fruit d'une vaste recherche et d'une planification minutieuse. OC Transpo is committed to ensuring a smooth transition for customers as we move toward the opening of the Confederation Line, and I want to thank all of them for their hard work to date. I'd like now to invite John Manconi to say a few words.
Thank you, Chair Blake. Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour à tous. For some time now, you've heard me say that OC Transpo is going through the most significant change in the history of the transit service. As the Chair noted, we're going through unprecedented levels of change as we transform to a modern, state-of-the-art, multimodal system of bus and rail service for our great city. With this comes complex change to our system that requires well-thought-out strategies with everything we do viewed through the most important lens, that is the lens of the customer. The work that will be presented to you today is over a year's worth of work, literally thousands of hours of staff time, conducting worldwide research, best practice reviews, peer comparators, industry comparators, customer journey mapping, and focus group testing all aligned to the project that will transform our city in 2018, the opening of the Confederation Line. Unlike many new LRT systems where you build it and you hope customers will use it, ours will be one of the busiest systems in North America on opening day, with over 10,500 passengers per hour per direction during the peak periods. All of the information that you receive today is critical as it is the foundation for future extensions to the network. It is important that this first phase is done right and that it is scalable and enables future expansions to be linked, such as the exciting Stage 2 expansion of the LRT line. The work is not created in isolation. It is aligned to relevant key City Council decisions, policies, and future visions, including the Transit Affordability Plan, the Official Plan, our Transportation Master Plan, Stage 1 of the LRT, Council's approval of the construction of the Confederation Line and associated objectives and goals, such as the reduction of buses in the core of our city, key planning principles and objectives such as complete streets, service excellence, and Stage 2 of the LRT. The three presentations that Pat will be taking us through today cover the three reports that will be going to the Transit Commission on June 15th. The presentations are lengthy and they are all linked, so please bear with us as we work our way through the three decks. We will pause for a minute or two to change decks in between the presentations, but I ask that you hold all questions until the end of the final presentation. Following the technical briefing, you'll be receiving electronic copies of all that is presented today. I'll now ask Pat to present the first deck.
Thanks, John. The first is about the way we will identify bus service as part of the complete OC Transpo system once the Confederation Line is open and we're in a multimodal system. To start this story, we all need to recognize that the bus route network is going to be modified to coordinate service with the Confederation Line. The bus routes that operate today through the downtown core will be replaced by very high-frequency rail service. Many trips that customers take now will become multimodal trips on bus and train. The service type names, the route numbers, the colors, and the symbols that we use to explain navigation through the system to customers need to be modified to simplify understanding and navigation of the new network. And this new wayfinding system forms the basis for clear communication and understanding as customers use the new network as the Confederation Line opens. The current downtown service, entirely bus-based, has got us a long way, and this we're running an incredibly frequent and incredibly high ridership bus rapid transit service. But for a customer who's leaving downtown, someone who's on Mackenzie King Bridge, Albert Street, or Slater Street, they're choosing between 48 different bus routes, and those 48 different bus routes provide more than 2,800 bus trips along those streets every day. In the future, rather than customers being at one stop like you see in this picture here and watching for their own bus route, the wayfinding question to start your trip becomes much simpler. If you're starting, for instance, at the Rideau Centre or anywhere else in downtown, instead of looking and contending for space with one of 48 different bus routes, you're walking into a train station and making a single wayfinding choice. Am I going west towards Tunney's Pasture or east towards Blair? And that fundamental, ultimate simplicity underpins everything that we're showing you here today. Most trips across the network, as I said, will become multimodal. There's a lot of destinations on the Confederation Line, and navigation to the line for customers, people as they plan their trips, will be identifying which routes connect to the O train and where their best connection is made. Express routes and transitway routes that now go into or through downtown will all be split or shortened to meet the train at major transfer stations. And at the same time, many local routes will be extended out from their communities to connect directly to the Confederation Line. So we're putting a new navigation and wayfinding structure into place to describe to customers how, where, and when bus routes will operate, which routes connect to the train, and where the customers should transfer. Some of the methods we have to explain this to customers are symbols, colors, and numbers that show up on signs, maps, and on other wayfinding systems. As John said earlier, these designs and this structure is based on transit industry best practices from across the world and confirmed through focus group testing right at home here in Ottawa. The new navigation system is an evolution of the current system, so it's not completely a change, but it has these design objectives: to simplify understanding of the route network, to integrate easily with the identification methods for the O-Train system, to help customers make the transition from the current network, to use meaningful descriptive words and not to use abstract technical words that don't resonate with customers, to improve legibility and usability of all of our maps and signs, to meet all of the applicable current accessibility standards, especially for people with visual disabilities, and to assist with meeting safety standards, such as showing customers how to get in and out of O-Train stations safely. We group the different types of service, the bus routes and the train lines, into service types so that we can explain each type of service differently to customers and provide them information about what's the type of service it provides and what's the value that that type of route has for them. So the resulting classification structure we communicate to customers through a consistent use of names, numbers, colors, and symbols to simplify wayfinding and simplify trip planning. And the first of those service types for the bus service will be the rapid routes. These are the routes that provide station-to-station connections along the transitway and along the bus lanes on highways and on arterial roads. The rapid routes provide a quick connection directly to the O-Train Confederation line, connecting at Tunney's Pasture, Herdman, and Blair stations. That name rapid is very clear. It gives the service promise, it describes the value, and it's a clear word that can't be open to confusion, unlike the word transitway, which we've been using for 30 years, which means different things to different people, whether it means the service or whether it means the roadway on which the service operates. In the 2018 service network, there will be 15 rapid routes coming from all parts of the city. There's so many routes because some of the routes that cross town now, like Route 95, will be two separate routes, a west section and an east section. So that's why there's 15 routes, why there's so many. The next one is the frequent route network. These are the routes that are not running on the transitway or on the bus lanes, but are on arterial streets or other major streets, providing service that runs every 15 minutes or better from 6 in the morning till 7 at night on weekdays, and which do run all week long. This gives us a frequent route network. When we add together the O-Train lines, the rapid routes, and the frequent route network, the three of those together give a citywide network that customers can rely upon, knowing that the bus comes every few minutes, and that where they don't always have to look up exactly what time that next bus is coming. In the 2018 service network, there will be 20 frequent routes. The next are the connection routes. These are the routes that will operate from residential neighborhoods directly and quickly to the nearest train station during rush hours. And these replace many of the current express routes, some other directed downtown routes, and some current feeder routes. They will connect the residential neighborhoods to the O-Train at Tunney's Pasture, Herdman, and Blair stations. And they're similar in some ways to the rapid routes once they're on the transitway, but they're customized in the residential neighborhoods. Then the local routes, where the value is more of how that service is customized and how it's routed, or how the schedule is set to meet customers' travel needs. Many of the local routes will provide a connection directly to rapid routes or to O-Train service 7 days a week. In some cases, we'll be able to combine express routes with existing local routes and extend that route to make the O-Train connection more frequently than either the local route or the express route runs today. 39 of the 63 local routes will connect directly to O-Train stations. As I said, in some cases, we'll combine them with express routes. 24 of the 63 local routes don't yet connect with O-Train stations, as they're connector routes within a community, and they'll bring customers to the rapid routes to feed into O-Train stations. But as Stage 2 comes along and the Confederation line and the Trillium line are both extended, more of these routes will be able to connect directly with O-Train stations. 19 of the local routes operate only during peak periods, providing connections to employment locations like the route that goes into the Shefford and Canatech Business Park, or smaller residential areas like the route that runs from Country Place and Grenfell Glen. Then there's 39 other bus routes that are in 3 existing categories. There'll be 22 school routes where the service is customized to the needs of staff and students traveling to and from high schools, 12 event routes, which are focused on the Canadian Tire Centre and on Lansdowne, and 5 shopper routes, which run once a week from rural villages. So when you put all those together, you can see that there's a range of service types on this list, from the most frequent at the top to the most customized at the bottom of the list. And we need to explain these differences to customers clearly and easily. Now, as we build the identities, we will start from what the Transit Commission approved in 2013 as the service identities for the O-Train system. The O-Train system is made up of 2 lines: the Confederation line, which is line 1, which will show with red signs in stations and red lines on maps, and the Trillium line, line 2, shown in green on signs and maps. And then from that starting point, and you can see here an example of a simple O-Train system map that we've been using for the last few years. From that, we build onto that different colors to help people understand the different service types for the bus service. Each of these colors corresponds with the different service types we talked about. Colors that we can apply consistently on printed and digital maps so that they will show up properly, whether they're on a printed base with the light being reflected, or a color that also works as light's transmitted, say on a backlit sign or on a video screen. These are signs that can be, colors that can be applied consistently all across the system. Bright colors, legible colors, and distinctive from each other. They'll meet the accessibility requirements for contrast and tonal differentiation, and we've tested these colors to assure that there's sufficient contrast for readers with the most common form of color blindness. So the new colors are, as you see here on the screen, the red and the green that I talked about earlier for the O-Train lines, blue for the rapid bus routes, orange for the frequent route network, a light purple for the connection routes, dark gray for the local routes, and a light gray for the school routes, event routes, and shopper routes. The colors can't always be represented. For instance, on digital LED signs, where you've only got 2 colors to work with, and for some people with other forms of color blindness, the color needs another backup. So the color will always be used with a symbol, and the symbols are designed to complement the colors, to improve the legibility and usability of maps, and to be consistently used everywhere. And the symbols, because they're there consistently with the color, always will help everyone to just recognize the information more easily that's being shown. The O-Train lines and the rapid bus routes will always appear in a circle, as you see there. The frequent routes, the number appears in that extended hexagon. The connection routes in that rectangle with the rounded corners. The local routes in the rectangle with the square corners. And then the shopper, event, and school routes in the same rectangle, but with the colors reversed, so it's dark letters on a light background. We're also looking at the bus route numbers and finding that we have to make some adaptation to the bus route number structure that's been in place for 30 years now. We'll still continue with the current geographic distribution of route numbers, but where the city has grown differently than the system has allowed, as it was set up 30 years ago, we'll change the geographic areas slightly. First of all, bus routes 1 and 2 will be renumbered because those numbers will be used for the 2 O-Train lines. Local routes that don't connect to the Confederation line will be numbered in the 100 series so that the 2-digit numbers, anything but from 99 down, will clearly show to customers that that is a route that makes a connection with the O-Train. We'll preserve the current route numbers as much as possible where we can, and we'll use parts of them where we can too. For instance, the current Route 37 could become connection route number 237. This map shows how the numbers are assigned across the city, with routes in Canada, for instance, being in the 60 series, routes in Barrhaven in the 70, routes in Orleans in the 30 series. And then this map shows, or this diagram shows, how those numbers are used for the different types of routes. So if you look at the example here in the second column for Barrhaven, you can see the rapid routes, the frequent routes, and the local routes that do connect directly to the Confederation line are in the 2-digit numbers in the 70s. The local routes that remain in the community and don't connect to the O-Train in the 170s, and the connection routes will be in the 270s. And then the shopper routes will be moved into the 300s, The event routes stay in the 400s. The rural partners that come into Ottawa from outside the city stay in the 500s, and the school routes will stay in the 600 series. Where we turn now to the system map, and where we're going to be using the latest and best cartographic principles and techniques to make sure that the service is represented well on the map, and that the map is very easily read for the purposes that customers have for it. That system map provides a general understanding of the overall network, indicates which routes serve an area, and indicates where a route runs from and to. It's an opportunity for us to show how the whole transit network, made up of both bus routes and train lines, all works as one system. And the system map needs to be legible in a number of different scales and ways. For instance, when it's a big poster that's posted at the entrance to an O-train station, or when it's on the back wall of a bus shelter, you're looking at it all at once. But when it's a little window, because you're looking at it on your phone or sliding it around in a web view of it, it has to work at a more zoomed-in scale. The new system map reduces complexity by adopting a more schematic style. We use the service colors and the symbols that I was talking about earlier. We'll also use varied line weights to reflect service types, so the more frequent service will have a thicker line on the map. To improve its readability, we'll remove minor roads that don't have transit service and some of the smaller points of interest. So this shows a picture of the concept of what the system map will look like. This is an area that we've been sort of experimenting with, but you can see in this here how the important routes, the routes that are running most frequently all day long, really stand to the front in the visual hierarchy, and the other routes that support that fade a little bit to the background, but they're all quite easily readable. This is also an opportunity to update how bus stop signs are prepared and what they look like. There's two basic sign designs, one for bus stops that are along station platforms and one for bus stops that are on the street outside stations. You can see samples of two of them at the side of the room here. So bus stop signs that will go up in stations where people already are in the station. There's some information we don't need to provide, but we can still direct people to where their bus stop, where their bus route picks up at that station. In a busy station, there might be a number of stops on the bus platform, and so this shows customers. In this example here, you can see that stop A on this platform is where you would go for the all-day services running to Canada and Stittsville, and stop B would be the rush hour connection routes in the afternoon rush hour, taking people home to Stittsville and Canada. Also, on the bus platforms will be digital signs showing what time the next bus will be leaving, continuously updated from the GPS location of the buses. And you see an example here on the right of what that would look like, showing a route number 51 going to Britannia, departing from stop C on the bus platform, with buses leaving in 5 minutes and 15 minutes. Out on the street, we're working on some concepts here to provide a little bit more. This shows the red plus the bus pictogram to remind people or identify clearly to people that it's a bus stop, using the same colors and symbols for the different route types, but also showing the destination of the bus so that people know which direction they're going and where that bus will take them. In every case, these numbers are bigger, brighter, and more easily read than the current bus stop signs on the street. And we took this information and these concepts and ran them through some focus groups made up of a combination of current OC Transpo customers and other people. They understood the value of what we were saying. They gave us some advice which altered the direction we were going, and they validated the choices that we were making with their input. They confirmed for us that the terms rapid and frequent are both positive, meaningful, and appropriate words to use, that the word frequent meant to them that the bus would come at least every 15 minutes. And they also confirmed our supposition that the word transitway had developed more than one meaning in the past and that we shouldn't use that in the future. And so we'll be implementing these improvements to the wayfinding system over the next year and a half, 2 years. The 2018 system map will be an important way for us to introduce what's coming in 2018 when the Confederation line opens, and we'll be rolling that out to customers in 2017 as part of a complete communication, information, and education campaign, which we're calling 18-18 for the 18-month countdown to 2018. New route numbers will be introduced gradually over the next 2 years at the quarterly service changes. Some will be introduced earlier and some later. The new bus stop signs will start to appear in January 2017, and all of them will be in place when the Confederation line opens in 2018. By doing this phased implementation, we can simplify communication to customers, reducing the amount of change that we make at any time, and getting as many of these bus-related changes in place and familiar to people before the changes that come in 2018 when the Confederation line opens and many customers have to learn more aspects about riding and using a train service as well. So I will now turn this back to John.
Thanks, Pat. We'll now move to the second presentation, which is the 2018 bus route network, which is an overview of what the bus network will look like in 2018. And it's important in that it answers the question, how will the bus system and the rail system connect up, and how will that work? The network we're presenting today is our framework for our journey towards 2018. Staff will continue to fine-tune the network, and in the first quarter of 2017, we'll be meeting with councillors to review their ward network in detail. Just to be clear, there is still work remaining in finalizing route details at the micro level. Pat, over to you.
Thanks again. So we start by taking a complete look at what the transit network as a whole will be like in 2018. When the Confederation line is in place, the train service will be bringing so many huge benefits to transportation in Ottawa and to Ottawa. The benefits go beyond just transportation. The line will give increased capacity through downtown, getting us away from those congested streets with lines of buses very susceptible to delay that we've had for so many years. Providing room for a lot of growth not only on the transit system, but growth of the downtown economy and I suggest the complete city's economy. The Confederation line will provide reliable and easy commuting via the tunnel into and out of and through downtown, providing operational savings to the city that will only grow as ridership increases. It'll give us a better downtown environment by replacing many, many bus trips with trains running below grade in the tunnel, and it will provide lower emissions across the city by replacing many bus and car trips with zero-emission electric trains. Taking a look at the route network as a whole, the Confederation line will, of course, replace the bus routes that run on the transitway between Blair and Tunney's Pasture stations. The bus routes will instead connect to the O-Train Confederation line at one of the 13 stations along the line. But 3 or 4 of those stations are very important major transfer stations where the bus operations and the train operations are integrated into the station. Blair Station in the east, Tunney's Pasture in the west, and Saint Laurent and Herdman Station in the central parts of the system. In the residential neighborhoods and in the commercial districts away from the train line, the buses will really run along the same streets, serving the same bus stops and carrying people in the same directions as they travel today. What changes in 2018 is that people will begin to make connections between bus and train at these major transfer stations to complete their trips to or through downtown. And the stations along the line have all been designed to make these connections easy and comfortable. So if you look at this schematic picture of the complete transit network, you can see how the bus routes that we run today run from every part of the urban part of Ottawa all through the city, and they focus down and they funnel together and they all come together until they operate on 2 streets in downtown. And it's because we're bringing people from all parts of Ottawa all down onto Albert and Slater Street. That's where everything gets so concentrated today. But after the Confederation line opens, that funneling and that concentration happens differently. We bring the people together, but we don't bring the buses together into one point. The buses will bring people to the train stations, and especially at Blair, Herdman, and Tunney's Pasture, large numbers of customers will change from bus to the train for that more reliable, quick trip into downtown. The different districts of the city will have their bus routes feed into different major stations. You can see on this map how the bus routes that come from the south, from Riverside South and the south part of Ottawa will feed primarily into Herdman Station up the southeast transitway. Bus routes from Orleans will feed into Blair using the bus lanes on the 174. Buses from the west part of Canada, from Barhaven, from Canada, Stittsville, the west part of Ottawa, central Nepean, Barhaven, will all feed into Tunney's Pasture using the Southwest Transitway, the West Transitway, and the bus lanes on Highway 417. And this table shows the different districts of the city and which will be their major connection point on the Confederation line. Altogether, this will give customers an improved travel experience compared to what they have today. The transition to a multimodal system affects most transit routes and affects most customers. Many customers will have a different experience on that system than they do today. They may have to make a new connection from bus to train, train to bus, or in some cases from bus to bus. At some O-train stations, they'll be using a fare gate for the first time, and then maybe using a bus route that has a different number than it has today. We're recommending simplification of the fare system, and we've already showed you how we're simplifying the customer information. And the stations, of course, will make any waiting time that does occur more comfortable than it's been in the past. So if we look then at the steps a customer will take, here's a customer making a typical trip to work in 2018. Just like today, they'll walk to their neighborhood bus stop and wait for the bus there. When they get on the bus, like today, they'll pay their fare or they'll tap their smart card pass. But that bus will take them to the nearest O-train station. If it's one of the major transfer stations, as it will be for a lot of people, they will get off the bus inside a prepaid fare area, so they don't have to make another fare transaction. They can walk directly to the train platform, and this is a familiar experience for anyone who has changed between bus or streetcar and train at one of the major stations in Toronto. The trains will run very frequently, so there's never much of a wait for a train. It'll come along within a couple of minutes. You get off the train at your destination station, ascend the escalator, walk out through the fare gates, walk out to the street, and go to work or wherever it is you're traveling. On your trip home, very similar but a little bit different. Walk to the nearest O-train station. From here, we'd be walking, for instance, to Parliament Station or over to Rideau Station. You'd pay your fare or you tap your pass on the fare gate to enter into the station. Walk down to the train platform and board the train. Again, in the afternoon, the trains are going to run very frequently. Get off the train at your transfer station, walk to the bus platform. Again, no fare transaction required there. And look at the video display. It'll tell you what platform your bus is leaving from, the status of the bus, when the next bus is expected. And then get on the bus and travel home to your neighborhood bus stop, just like today. It's an easier way to ride, and these changes will make the transit system easier to understand and easier to use. We'll be providing information to customers steadily through this transition, and as I mentioned earlier, we'll have this communication and information program over the next 2 years to make sure that as much of this as is familiar to people before the intermodal operation begins in 2018. The stations will all be comfortable, modern, attractive, with special security features in place like trans-secure waiting areas where customers know that they're more safe. People can get together there. There's a little bit more lighting there. The emergency phones, the information phones are there on the wall, and the cameras are on there at all times. We'll provide next bus departure and next train arrival information on all platforms to give customers real-time information on what's coming to them. The stations are all designed based on universal accessibility principles, which will help not only people with disabilities but everyone, because all of these design features work to help everybody. There's public art incorporated into all the stations, and there's sheltered bicycle parking at all of the non-downtown stations and connections into the multi-use pathways and pedestrian networks where they exist. There'll be an easier way to purchase fares. All of the O-train stations, both on the Confederation line and the Trillium line, will have automated fare control. There'll be fare vending machines at every station where customers can buy individual fares, can purchase new Presto cards, can reload Presto cards, can make just about any kind of fare transaction. Those fare vending machines will also have a direct audiovisual link back to our customer service representatives who can provide them any help they need. And then across the entrance to each station will be the fare gates, which will accept smart cards. So you tap a smart card to go through the gate, you scan a barcode on a ticket that you've purchased or in a transfer that you've been given when you boarded a bus. And that gets you through the gate. And here's a picture of what one of the stations will look like now under construction. This Herdman Station, and you can see here the train platforms on the upper level and the bus platform on the lower level. And in reality, in the morning rush hour, it will be a lot busier than this artist's conception shows. In particular, Tunney's Pasture, Herdman, and Blair stations are set up for major transfer volumes of customers. Large numbers of people will be changing between bus and train, train and bus at these locations. So the integrated bus loop is very close to the train platform. The arrival bus stop on that platform will be the closest of all to the station entrance, so that customers can walk to the station very quickly. The departure bus stops are more spread out and will be organized by the destination geography with groups of routes depending on which district you're traveling to, using the alphabetic identifiers. An example is to think about how the different loading areas at an airport are all marked individually. And of course, as I said, the real-time information will be provided on video screens near each stop. Those 3 stations will have fare-paid zones where people can change between bus and train and bus without having to do another fare transaction. And Bayview Station will also have a fare-paid zone for people who are for customers who are transferring between the Trillium line and the Confederation line. So customers arriving at these 3 stations by bus will be dropped off within the fare-paid zone. There's no fare transaction required. People can walk directly with no barrier. And in the afternoon, because everyone's prepaid their fare, when the bus comes up to the platform and opens all the doors, customers can get on all the doors very quickly and move off. And again, this is something that's very familiar to people who've traveled or lived in Toronto. Here's a picture of Herdman Station example. The blue line outlines what will be the fare-paid zone. So customers can walk back and forth between the train platforms and the bus platforms. And for some customers, changing between buses, they'll move back and forth between the bus platforms. But customers who are exiting to walk to a nearby destination or entering because they've been dropped off by car or because they've ridden their bicycle there would come in through the fare gates, which are shown in yellow on this diagram. The platforms at all the stations will be reached. They're either below or above the entrance, and you'll reach them with stairwells and with elevators at all the stations, and 9 of the 13 stations will have escalators. 12 of the 13 stations also have backup elevators, so that if there's ever a time that one elevator is down for maintenance or for any other reason, the other one will still be working. And all the train platforms will be wide and well lit. And here's an example of what the train platforms will look like at Saint Laurent Station. So we're looking east here, and you can see a westbound train coming into the station, ready to pick up these clip art customers who are waiting to get on, who are all standing in various interesting poses. The centerpiece of the whole system is, of course, the trains. These are from the company Alstom. The model name is the City Spirit. These are trains that will provide a very smooth and quiet ride, comfortable and frequent service. The train will operate very frequently, very reliably, and very quickly. These are very big trains. Trains are 100 meters long, so it's almost as long as a football field. Each train has a capacity for 600 customers under normal conditions, and that's the equivalent of 8 or 9 articulated buses. So these are very big trains. You can see across the bottom of each one of these slides what the train will look like when seen from the side. And all along the length of the train, there's 14 double doorways that will open every time the train comes into any station. And so customers can get off the trains and on the trains very quickly. And as I said, there's no fare transaction. There's no barrier to getting on and off the trains. So moving now to the bus route network, we designed the bus route network using a few simple and strong principles that for as many customers as we can, we'll provide a one bus connection to the Confederation line during peak hours. We'll have travel times on the bus route network that are similar or better compared to today. We'll have frequencies of service that are similar or better compared to today. And these bus routes will be compatible with the 2023 transit system, so that in the neighborhoods across the city, there doesn't have to be another change when the Stage 2 extensions open. The changes only have to happen to where the routes connect with the O-train lines. I mentioned earlier the rapid routes. These are the routes that provide the high-speed station-to-station bus service, providing all day, all week long connections from different parts of the city to the Confederation line. And when you put, on this map, you put together the rapid routes with the O-train lines, you can see the city-wide rapid transit network that will be in place. The frequent route network, these are the routes that run on arterial roads across the city. Many of them are inside the Greenbelt, some of them cross through the Greenbelt. These are the routes the other routes that run every 15 minutes or better through the daytime on weekdays and that do run 7 days a week. And when you put them together with the rapid routes and the O-train lines, you can see here the extensive network where people can just turn up and go at most times of the day and don't always need to check a timetable. The connection routes are the routes that will run from residential neighborhoods directly to the nearest O-train station, replacing many of the current express routes, some other direct-to-downtown routes, and some of the current feeder routes. They operate on the same routes as they do today. They won't have a premium fare in future, and they'll be recognizable by new route numbers in the 200 series. And you can see on this map how they funnel in primarily into Blair Station at the east, Herdman Station from the southeast, and Tunney's Pasture from the southwest and from the west. And when you put all of those routes together with the local route network on this diagram, you get a very schematic view of how the whole route network fits together. Downtown, all the downtown routes, there will still be bus routes running through downtown along the same streets as today. So there'll still be buses on streets like Dalhousie and Queen and Bank and Gladstone and Bronson. But Albert and Slater streets will no longer be the major transit corridor that they have been these last 30 to 50 years. Some of the routes that go through downtown, in particular routes 1, 5, 7, 14, and 16, will be shortened up or split into two routes to make the best connections at downtown O-train stations and to improve reliability on those routes. But bus service, for the most part, will continue to operate in the same way along the same streets as it does today. The bus operation all across the network, and particularly downtown, is currently susceptible to variability that comes from things that happen downtown. The traffic signals downtown, the effects of weather where the service is most concentrated, auto traffic congestion, and other day-to-day occurrences. And in a number of ways, in two major ways, the reliability of bus service improves. First, the rapid routes, the connection routes, and the local routes that bring customers into O-train stations don't come into downtown, so they're never driving through that area of variability anymore. They're coming into those major connection stations, and they're getting there by using bus-only lanes on the 174 or transitway corridors. The local and frequent routes that run through downtown will also be more reliable than they are today as we divide them into two routes. So something that's delayed service on the east side of downtown, for instance, won't affect customers who are on the south side of downtown. A couple of streets downtown that will see major changes. Rideau Street in particular will have major changes. Much more pedestrian activity because Rideau Station will be immediately under Rideau Street, so a lot of customers will be walking up out of the train station and onto Rideau Street, but there'll be fewer buses running along Rideau Street than there have been in the past as we reorganize the bus routes. But Rideau Station remains the main connection for bus routes that are coming from Elgin Street, Sandy Hill, Lower Town, Vanier, and other areas around those. Queen Street will be different. Queen Street will be very busy for pedestrians as people come out of Lyon Station and Parliament Station in the morning and as they walk to those stations for their afternoon trip. There will also be more buses along Queen Street than there have been in the past as we realign the bus routes. The bus routes from Bank Street will connect to the O-train at Parliament Station, and the bus routes from Bronson will connect at Lyon Station. So here's an early view of what the bus route network will look like downtown, showing the frequent routes in orange, the local routes in the dark gray, the rapid routes that are extended into downtown at rush hours, extended to Gatineau at rush hours in blue, the Confederation line in red, and the Trillium line in green. And the bus routes are all running on pretty much the same streets as today, but the connections is where the differences are. And you see some of the new route numbers that we're working on here too. The Confederation line, like any other rail system, needs to shut down each night to allow for track maintenance and vehicle maintenance. And the trains will not run between 1 in the morning and 5 the next morning from Monday to Thursday. On Friday nights, it's from 2 in the morning to 6 on Saturday morning. On Saturday nights, from 2 until 8 on Sunday morning, and on Sunday nights from 11 until 5 the next morning. And these are hours that we chose along with the builder to keep early morning service available for people who are traveling to work early, and to keep as much late night service as possible available for people who are working late or who are out for the evening. But at the times that the train isn't running, to keep the 24-hour service that we provide today, we will be extending some of those rapid routes that I showed you right into downtown. So a customer, for instance, who's leaving somewhere in the market after the last train would walk to Rideau Station just as they would if the train were running, but at Rideau Station the buses will be there waiting for them with buses marked. This is the bus that's going to Canada, here's the bus that's going to Barrhaven, here's the bus that's going to South Keys and Riverside South, and here's the bus that's going out to Orleans. And those routes will be most frequent right after the train closes, taper down a bit through the middle of the night when ridership is lower, and then amplify a bit as ridership begins between 3:30 and 5 in the morning. And these are some of the best hours of service on any rapid transit line in North America. So as we look ahead to 2023, as you can see, the opening of the Confederation line has an effect on every transit customer, but it's the foundation on which the future extensions will be built. And in 2023, when Stage 2 is open, all of the benefits we've been talking about are just multiplied and apply to so many more customers as the lines are extended west to Bayshore and Baseline, east to Orleans, and as the Trillium line is extended south to Riverside South. And the principles that we showed you here in 2018 will be similarly applied in 2023. We are already in transition to adapt these bus routes to connect well with the Confederation line. Some bus routes have been in the process of being adjusted since 2011. Every route change we've been making for several years has been made with the Confederation line in mind. Some routes will be adjusted between now and 2018 following normal procedures as we consult with councillors where changes are happening in an area. In fact, in one area in part of Greenboro, there are changes happening this month which make service better in that part of Greenboro, not only in the short term, but also set those routes up for how they'll connect with the Confederation line in 2018. But direct to downtown bus service will be phased out on all of those express routes and all of those current transitway routes with the opening of the Confederation line in 2018. I mentioned it earlier, and John will talk about it more, about our 18-18 program, a comprehensive communication, information, and education campaign to begin in early 2017 to build understanding, knowledge, and excitement and familiarity with the Confederation line and its operations to help customers make the transition to the new service. It builds on the comprehensive customer journey mapping research that John talked about earlier, and we'll be bringing a separate report to the Transit Commission on this later this year. We'll provide customers with the information they need so that their transition to the new route network is simple, easy, and seamless. And we'll be reaching out to customers through this 18-18 program so that customers are all fully aware of when their trips are changing and how they're changing. And so now I'll turn you back to John.
Thanks, Pat. The third and final presentation is the recommended fare system restructuring that's needed to coordinate with the O-Train Confederation line multimodal operations. In this presentation, we'll be discussing the recommended fares and the associated timing for implementation of the recalibrated fares. We will also explain how our new fare gate system will work and other related changes needed to implement the multimodal system. Pat?
Thanks, John. We'll start by talking about premium fares. And currently we charge a premium fare on direct to downtown routes, which are called express routes. And these are routes which run directly to downtown from residential neighborhoods in Canada and Stittsville, Barrhaven, and Orleans. And we've had premium fare express routes here in Ottawa since 1974. Currently, there's a 23% to 50% surcharge for adult fares, depending on whether customers pay with a monthly pass or whether they pay per single ride. And there's a 17% surcharge for people who use student passes to ride on these express routes. But we've never charged premium on the 90 series rapid transit routes, the transitway routes, nor on the direct to downtown routes that come from locations inside the Greenbelt or from the south. And so we talk here about why the change is needed to premium fares. With the expansion of the transitway system over the last 30 years and the many improvements that have been made to the transit system as the city has grown, the express routes are no longer clearly distinct from the regular fare routes as they were when they were introduced. And with the opening of the Confederation line, all of the current express routes will change into connection routes or in some cases local routes. And at that point, there's no difference in service quality between the former express routes and the other routes that connect to the Confederation line. So because of that, charging a premium fare on some routes or on some trips would be inequitable to customers and would reduce the service quality available to everyone because people would still be grouped on this group of trips or that group of trips rather than having access to all of the service. In addition, it won't be possible or practical to charge premium fares or to check premium fares in the afternoon. At those major transfer stations, we need to load the buses through all the doors very, very quickly and have those buses move off right away. If we were to delay that service by having customers queue up to get through the front door or requiring them to tap as they get on the other doors, that would slow down loading the service. It would back up those major stations. There'd be congestion in the stations, which would increase customers' travel time and would push our operating costs up. On this table, we are having a look at some of the things that have made the express routes distinct in the past and how that's evolved over time. When the express routes were brought in, they provided the transfer-free trips. They provided the only transfer-free trips to downtown. But since the 1980s and increasingly up till now, more and more parts of the city are linked directly to downtown with rapid transit service on the transitway. The express routes provided that limited stop service to downtown, which is now also available on transitway routes, going along the transitway, stopping only at stations. The express routes were consistently available in suburban areas, but more recently haven't been because some of the newer suburban areas are served only by regular fare bus routes, and we haven't been able to add express routes because of the bus congestion downtown. Up until the late 1990s, the express routes almost guaranteed a seat. It was high-floor buses, so they weren't accessible to people with disabilities, but there were a lot of seats on those buses, and every customer got a seat. But since we've converted to low-floor buses, everyone can get on the bus now, but there's fewer seats, and some customers always need to stand. The express routes used to exclude lower-fare customers, but with the adoption of the U-Pass and adoption of the Community Pass, there's many more customers who now have access to all of the service. When the express routes were first brought in, the premise was that a higher fare was charged to cover the higher operating costs of that transfer-free trip, the limited stop service, and the seat availability. But now the operating cost of express routes is similar to the operating cost of all routes because they all operate under the same service standards. And of course, in 2018, when the Confederation line opens, that direct to downtown service will no longer be provided. In particular, in 2018, the express distinction will no longer exist. The routes that feed into O-train stations will be the rapid routes, the frequent routes, the connection routes, and the local routes. The connection routes include many of the current express routes, but also those other peak-only feeder routes that I talked about that don't currently have a premium fare. So some of the historical characteristics that are going away in 2018 are the transfer-free trips to downtown as customers from those districts and to the west, southwest, and east will complete their trips on the Confederation line. The higher fares to cover the higher operating cost will no longer apply. All the operating costs will be the same, whether they're connection routes or local routes or rapid routes. And as I said earlier, it's not practical and not possible to check or charge the premium fare when customers are boarding in the afternoon at the major transfer stations. That would have impacts on service and on our operating costs. But we still need to bring in $190 million a year in fare revenue to meet the budget expectations, to meet the long-range financial plan of transit. That $190 million a year that comes in from customers pays more than half of the operating cost of running OC Transpo. And the premium fares bring in $6 million of that, and we need to still collect that $6 million to meet our obligations. And so therefore, some of the fare types need to be recalibrated or adjusted. We need to bring all of the customers who use monthly passes to a single monthly pass price. One price for adults, another price for students. We need to bring customers who are paying single ride fares together so that there's one e-purse fare for adults and one cash fare for adults. But there's no change required to many other fare types because they already give access to all services in the system. We'll be recommending to the Commission the removal of premium fares for express routes and the adoption of a new recalibrated fare structure to compensate for that reduction in fare revenue, and we'll show you that in the next couple of tables. This first table shows the recalibrated monthly pass prices, and you can see here that the highest price pass that we sell today, which we'll sell from July 1st this year for $130.50, that's sold to 13,000 customers a month, and that's the express monthly pass. The regular fare monthly pass sold to 38,000 customers a month. Currently, or from July 1st, we'll sell for $105.75. And when we bring those groups together and adjust the fare proportionately, the combined fare, the single fare for the future, is $125.25. And that brings $112.25. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. And that brings in the same amount of money from the same number of customers. The student passes combined from the current express fare of $99 and the current regular fare pass of $84.25. As you can see, there's hardly anybody, there's many more customers use the regular fare than the express pass, so that comes out much closer to the current regular fare at $84.75. The seniors pass does not need to change because it already gives access to all services, and the community pass does not need to change because that also already gives access to all services. The next table shows the single ride fares, where we're recommending not only combining the express fares and the regular fares, but also bringing the e-purse fare and the cash fare much closer together to help us with the removal of the tickets, so that ticket fares aren't needed, but customers can still have the same price as we move into the machine-readable fares that are required at the fare gates at the O-train stations. So here we're recommending that the Presto e-purse fare of $4.39 for express service and $3 for regular service be combined at $3.30. The tickets now selling for $4.95 and $3.30 would be discontinued. Customers would be able to use a Presto e-purse at $3.30. And the cash fare, the express cash fare at $5.15, the regular fare at $3.65 would both be reduced down to $3.35. So cash fares would become considerably lower than they are today. The seniors fares, we'd be moving the Presto e-purse fare and the cash fare closer together. So instead of $2.19 and $2.75, they'd be $2.50 and $2.55. And small changes to the child's fare, moving from $1.61 to $1.65 on Presto e-purse, and from $1.90 down to $1.70 when paid with cash. And this complete table, like the first one, would bring in the same amount of fare revenue from the same number of customers. Some of this is needed because of the end of premium fares, and some of this is needed to work with the automated fare control systems. The fare gates across the entrances to all O-train stations need to have machine-readable fares, and that's done in two ways. One is with smart cards, and the other is with 2D encoded barcodes on tickets and on transfers. So someone who's coming to the fare gate will tap their Presto card or other smart card, or will scan the barcode that's on the transfer they received when they got on the bus, or the ticket that they were issued at the fare vending machine, and then they can walk through the fare gate. But we have to modify a few of our fare types to meet the requirement of being machine readable. The first of those is the discontinuation of paper passes and paper tickets. We were expecting this, we have been expecting this since the Presto system was introduced in 2012 and 2013, but we kept those passes available to help people make the transition, and most people have made that transition. So we're selling a lot fewer of these paper passes and paper tickets than we were before Presto was introduced. But the time has now come to wind those products down, because it won't be feasible to use paper passes and paper tickets at the fare gates of O-train stations. Customers will still be able to buy monthly passes at the same price as whether they're on Presto or on paper, and single ride fares in future with the recommendations we have here. The e-purse fares will be the same as the ticket fares are today. So there's no financial impact on customers by eliminating these products. So we're recommending phasing out paper passes and tickets, beginning with the pass types that have the lowest use. So student monthly passes, the paper passes would all be removed by this fall. Everyone would be moved to Presto. Adult monthly passes, senior monthly passes, and community passes in the summer of 2017, and paper tickets before the end of 2017. We have other operational solutions to put in place to make sure that everyone can get through the fare gates and that all fares are machine readable. In particular, we'll be making arrangements to make sure that children who are aged 5 or under, or seniors who are traveling on Wednesdays, can still get onto the whole system at all times, even though the fare gates are in place. Customers who are traveling to Lansdowne Park with their event ticket will be working with the Lansdowne event organizers, especially OSEG, to be able to scan their barcodes, the barcodes that are on those tickets, to get through a fare gate at an O-train station. We're working with the universities and Algonquin College on solutions to make the UPass machine readable at the same time that it still remains capable of visual inspection, so that it can be used both on fare gates at the O-train stations and also when customers are boarding buses. And this summer we've got a pilot project underway, and the UPasses that are issued by the University of Ottawa are already smart cards this summer, and that's going very well. For connections with the STO, the fare gates, just like our buses, the fare gates will read and recognize either monthly passes or the stored value on the STO's multi-card, and we're also working with the STO on the best solution for the very small number of customers who start their trips on the STO and pay using non-smart card products like cash or tickets. We're recommending removing the top-up that is now required, the premium fare that's charged for people who travel on Transpo before 9 in the morning. This was originally designed to reduce demand and to encourage people to travel later in the day, but that effect has lessened over the years. And so we're recommending removing the requirement for a morning top-up so that a fare on Transpo is the same at all times of the day, as it will be with the removal of the express premium on the conventional system. We're recommending a change to the community pass. Right now, the community passes are available to 2 distinct groups of customers. ODSP recipients, these are people who are both disabled and have a low income, and Transpo registrants, who we know have a disability, but who aren't necessarily low income at the same time because they don't qualify for ODSP. So we want to split those 2 groups so we can customize the value of the pass to each of those groups. The community pass would be offered only to customers on ODSP, and at that point we would remove the requirement for a top-up fare from a community pass to ride on Transpo. So that community pass would be valid for all travel across the entire network, whether it's on the conventional service or on Transpo. The new access pass for Transpo registrants would be a choice available to them, and that would give them unlimited abilities to ride on the conventional system for a reduced fare, and at the same time would also provide them a 1/3 discount if they're making single ride trips on Transpo. So Transpo registrants would have the choices of buying a monthly pass, buying this access pass, which gives them unlimited travel on the conventional system and a discounted price on Transpo, or paying for all of the trips with an individual single ride fare. And we will help customers to understand what's the best way in their own circumstance to make that choice. We're recommending changing the current student pass. This is the student pass that's bought at retail, not the U-Pass. But the student pass would be changed to be a youth monthly pass so that it's available to everyone who's aged 19 and under, not only those who are registered as a student. That brings about 1,400 more people in who are able to get this discount. And to fund that additional group of people getting this discount, we would just knock the discount price down by 1 percentage point from a 24% discount down to a 23% discount. We would change the structure of a day pass. So the day pass would be consistently set at 3 times the single ride fare to clarify the value. If someone is making 3 trips or more, a day pass is good for them. If they're making 4 trips or more, the day pass is their best value. But if they're making 2 trips, single ride fares are their best value. And that applies to weekdays where the day pass is used by one customer, or on weekends and statutory holidays where it's valid for a group, usually a family, a group of up to 6 people, 2 of whom are adults. The day pass value would then be, if that family or that group is making a round trip, the day pass would be their best value. If they're only traveling one way, single ride fares would be their best price. We're also recommending bringing in a new multi-day pass to provide a new option to help people who are visiting Ottawa get around the city on the transit system, and especially as they will find it easier to use our one train line through downtown rather than our 48 bus routes going along Albert and Slater streets. That multi-day pass would be available at the vending machines, at the fare vending machines at O-train stations. And for that reason, we can only bring it in 2018 when the Confederation line opens and we have those vending machines available all across the system. And customers would be able to walk up to the fare vending machine and select whether they wanted to buy a pass for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 days. The pricing will be set to encourage ridership by visitors, but the pricing will also be set to ensure that the monthly pass is still the best value for everyday travelers in Ottawa. So we'll bring those recommended prices forward as part of the 2018 budget in time for implementation with the opening of the O-train. We're also working with Via Rail Canada to give Via's customers the option of including their transit fare in Ottawa as part of their train fare. When they purchase the train fare, they can purchase the OC Transpo fare at the same time. Via already does this with some bus companies in southwestern Ontario and with the commuter trains on GO Transit in Toronto and on the AMT in Montreal. That tool is built right into Via's reservation system. So customers who are making that trip, they might be able to buy a ticket directly from, let's say, Kingston to downtown Ottawa or anywhere in Ottawa, making the connection at Fallowfield Station, or from Montreal to downtown Ottawa, making the connection at Ottawa Station on Tremblay Road. They would have a barcode on, or a separate coupon, which they would show on the train to show the conductor on the train that they've got the fare to travel, and the other one to show to the bus operator or to scan at the barcode as they enter into the O-train station to complete their trip. And we are very happy to work with any other intercity transportation companies that are interested in providing the same opportunity. Right now, Via is the only one. We have to make some changes to the way we distribute our fares. One of those changes is that we have the vendor network. These are convenience stores and drug stores across the city who sell paper passes and paper tickets. Their sales volumes have gone down as more people have moved over to loading their Presto card online. And with the end of paper products, the end of paper passes and paper tickets, we will be working with those vendors directly to offer them other fare products from OC Transpo that they would sell. One possibility might be preloaded Presto cards, but we'll be working with them individually. And there might be other things as payment technology changes in future, that might also allow the vendors to sell other fare products. There are some social agencies and other agencies who now purchase paper tickets directly from OC Transpo to distribute to their clients. And with the phasing out of paper tickets, we'll be working with each of those agencies directly to find the best way for them to prepay single ride fares for their clients. In some cases, that might mean prepaid Presto cards. In some cases, that might mean group registration of Presto cards. Or in some cases, it might be special vouchers which are designed specifically for those the clients of those agencies to get access to OC Transpo's trains and buses. We're recommending changing the timeline on which fare increases regularly occur. Right now, the fare changes happen on the 1st of July, and it's been that way for many, many years with a couple of exceptions. And what we're recommending is that the fare changes go into effect each year on the 1st of January to be much more closely tied to the city's budget year. And so we're recommending that the changes we've talked about here come into effect on January 1st, 2017, instead of July 1st, 2017. And in the year 2017 in particular, because we bring that date forward, we can do a smaller increase in fares and still meet the budgetary requirements. Instead of doing a 2.5% fare increase, we could do a 1.25% fare increase, because in the year 2017, it would apply for the full year rather than only half the year. And that would help to ease the transition for customers with those other recalculations that we showed earlier in the presentation. The one exception to this is the U-Pass, because the U-Pass is set by contract to increase in September each year, and September is the best time to make changes because it fits into students and the universities and colleges' expectations. So for 2017, the U-Pass increase would remain at 2.5%. This graphic shows how the 2.5% increase that happened in July 2015, the 2.5% increase that's coming up on July 1st this year, would transition into the recalibration plus the 1.25% increase in January 2017, and then we'd fall back into the routine of the 2.5% increase every 1st of January going on. But it's important to point out that even though we would make these recalibrations and we would remove the express premium fare on the 1st of January 2017, the express service would continue right through until the Confederation line opens in 2018. We're basing our recommended fare table on a standard structure of multipliers, discounts, and rounding rules to set all of the future fare types from a base fare, to avoid what we've had in the past of some fare types being rounded up one year and rounded down the next year, rounded to the dollar one year, rounded to the nickel another year. That has resulted in some customer groups having large increases one year and then no increase the next year. So what we would be doing is calculating our recommendations to council on this solid structure every year, and using that to make the recommendation to council to avoid those imbalances from year to year. Council would then have, of course, the complete authority to make any changes, and we would reflect those changes. If they reduce the discount rate or increase the multiplier on something, we would make future years follow the new policy direction from council. So this table shows, and you'll be able to look at it in more detail later, how based on the base fare of $3.30, cash fare, e-purse fares would have a 25% and 50% discount. E-purse fares are the same plus a nickel. You see how an adult monthly pass would be at 34 times the base fare, and then a 23% discount for the youth fare, 62% discount as today for the seniors pass, 63% discount as today for the community pass and the new access pass. The other recommendation we're making is a small one, just to continue an adjustment that we've had in place for 3 years, which is to reduce the cash fare that's required on Transpo down to the e-purse fare that's required on the complete system, so that there's not a discrepancy for Transpo customers who don't have that ability to use an e-purse yet until the new Pay system is up and fully running. The Pay system is now in testing with customers, but until it's rolled out, we want the Commission to approve continuing the current arrangement of reducing cash fare on Transpo through to the end of the year. And that brings me to the end of my presentation, and I'll turn you back to John.
Thank you, Pat. As you can tell, there's a lot of information to share with our customers. Later this year, we'll be presenting to the Transit Commission a report entitled Outlining Our Comprehensive Communication, Information and Education Campaign. The The project is entitled 18-18, as you've heard from Pat, which represents the 18 months of information that we're going to disseminate to our customers prior to the opening of the Confederation line. It will consist of incremental information being provided to our customers, residents, institution, City Council, and the media regarding the Confederation line. The program will communicate the exciting and important changes relating to our multimodal system and the launching of the Confederation line. More to come on this exciting program later this year. We'll now turn over to Michael for facilitate questions. Thank you.